I'm like, stand planted, stand up straight, posture is everything, hips over knees, knees over ankles. Like just trying to be more aware of where your body's at throughout the day is going to really help you.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Rachel and I have an extremely special guest for you today. I bet you recognize her gorgeous face because you have seen her as a CVG ambassador, and she does some amazing work. I would like to introduce you to Alyssa Borges. Alyssa, thank you for being with us.
Hi, thank you so much, Rachel, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We are so excited to talk to, well, now I'm going to have this trouble because I'm going to say like there's me and somebody else here, but Prego's out doing, baby stuff. So, hot girl pregnant shit. Just have that baby already. Yeah, she's trying, what did she try yesterday? Acupuncture.
Oh, nice.
Did you have any
Has she tried foot massages?
foot massage? She said she had some stretches she was supposed to be doing, some acupuncture. But no, I didn't hear of any foot things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
They
it.
are literally like the gateway. Yeah, you can induce labor with them. So.
Oh my God.
But you need to find someone who knows what they're doing.
Oh, so I can't just go over there later today and just press on some spots and just like let's get it going here. I'm trying to meet my baby.
Yeah.
I need to get that smell.
Yeah. It's kind of more about like trigger point, like if you do trigger point therapy, so it's like certain pressure points can induce labor and everything. But
as soon as we get off, I'm gonna tell her. I mean, we have everything here, so I'm sure there's a pressure point labor person here.
Oh, I'm sure.
So you have been with CVG doing, some promotional stuff for us, some fitness stuff for us. And I wanted to formally introduce our audience to you because you are actually such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to movement and corrective exercise. And the work that you do is really, really important for everyone to be able to hear, to move well, to move without pain, and to like kind of correct some of the imbalances that we may have developed over our lifetime that we may not even know are causing us pain.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I want to just get into your background a little bit because you've been in fitness for a long time, and you are the owner of Enchanted Wellness,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
a fellow entrepreneur,
I am.
and you chose your gym as a women's only gym. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I wanted to know how and why you kind of got started in the industry, and then why women specifically, like why focus that path?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it really goes all the way back to my teenage years. So I was a full-time athlete all through college. And unfortunately, I suffered from a lot of injuries just because of, well, I pushed myself really hard. As a teenager, I got a full ride scholarship. I just pushed myself too hard. I got knee surgery at the age of 14 because I was so hard on myself. Yeah. And my
What
shoulder
was
was
your
actually
sport?
a volleyball.
Oh, of course. I knew it. I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute.
I played basketball for a while, but once my knee had to get surgery, that was like a no-go. But yeah, I played volleyball very, very competitively. I played year round. And I would rarely have a day off during the week. So it was very, very intense. And I ended up completely shredding my shoulder. And so I did a lot of physical therapy and everything, and it was kind of like a Band-Aid. But it got me to college. And then once I was in college, it got to the point where a doctor told me that I had to give up my full ride scholarship. So that's what I did. And not to get sad, but I kind of went into a depression for a while. I didn't know. I was planning on becoming a physical therapist. And now I didn't have a means to pay for that. So going to college wasn't an option because I didn't have the money. And so I started working at a local gym. I moved back to my hometown and everything and started working at a local gym. I just worked front desk, but I started really getting into powerlifting and bodybuilding with my cousin, who has a wealth of knowledge in that area. And so I just really started loving lifting. I started doing kickboxing. I started doing all of these different means of different exercises rather than sports, which was very new to me. And it was really exciting. So as I was progressing, I started teaching group fitness classes, which, if anyone's been to them, they're mainly women that go. So, I mean, it already started off. But I started doing group fitness classes, a lot of them. I was doing cycling and HIIT training and all anything you could think of. I was teaching it, yoga. And it just progressed over the years. I just started getting more and more certifications. And then eventually I got certified as a personal trainer. And because I had dealt with injuries for so long, I knew that I wanted to help people avoid injuries, hopefully. And actually, originally, I was planning on training athletes. That was actually my goal. And I did that for a while. And I trained them with corrective exercise and everything. It worked out really well. But then I had my second kid, and my schedule just wasn't flexible enough to train people after school hours. So I had another kid. So I had like some issues with my pregnancy and delivery and all of that stuff and the healing process. And I was like, there's such a lack of options for women, especially mothers. Like, there is such a lack not only for gyms that offer a safe place for your kids to come with you, but also offer someone who has knowledge on the experience, so done it firsthand, and also has corrected all of these issues from injuries, pregnancy, delivery. I mean, carrying babies, like all of that stuff messes you up. It's really, really wearing, like, it wears your body down a lot. And so I was like, I started getting this vision of growing a women's center where they can bring their kids. It's a one-stop shop. You know, I do pelvic floor strengthening. I do all of that stuff. And I was like, well, I need to offer that. I can do that. so so it just led me in that little niche direction. And I was like, this is what we're doing. And eventually I hope to grow my gym to offer also like an esthetician, a massage therapist, like a one-stop women's self-care shop, basically.
Oh my God, is that heaven? Are
Right?
you speaking about heaven?
Yes. Heaven on earth.
I love that. And I especially, I mean, all of the experts that we talk to in their fields that have this sort of personal draw because of their own experiences, whether it be with nutrition or injury, or as you said, childbirth and labor, and all of the things that go along with being a woman in fitness. And seeing those things, just huge holes and gaps in the industry. And I just love that you chose to fill that and provide a service that is so valuable to so many women. So, okay, you spoke a little bit about corrective exercise. Can you define what corrective exercise is for our listeners? I've kind of always thought of it as PT. Is it the same as PT? Is it different? And who needs to be doing corrective exercise?
So it is not the same as PT, just because I don't have a doctorate. That's the biggest the biggest difference. So I cannot say it's physical therapy, but corrective exercise is kind of like taking physical therapy like exercises and assessments and mixing it together with a normal workout regimen. And to explain exactly what corrective exercise is, it's looking at a person's arthrokinematics or their joint movements and assessing for any overactive or underactive muscles that are causing altered movements. And then once assessed, it's going through a progress of doing releasing, lengthening, and strengthening exercises to get the body back into a more optimal moving state. So this not only lowers the risk of injury, but it also, like especially if you want to do strength training, it builds a stronger foundation so that you can lift heavier weights. A good example of this. So if you sprain your ankle even once, you have an altered neural drive to your glutes, especially on that one side that you injured. And if you don't properly train it back, your glutes kind of turn off. So they're not turning on when they should be. So think about doing a back squat and your glutes don't turn on, right? You're going to be able to do the movement because, well, your body's going to get you through it, right? It's like, okay, we're doing this. But it's not going to be with the best form. You're going to lose a lot of strength, like losing those big muscles. You're going to lose a ton of strength, and you're probably going to start feeling some aches and pains in places that you shouldn't be. So it's about turning those muscles back on so that you have that full power and strength in all of your muscles, and they're working together when they should be, and you build a stronger foundation, and you're just that much stronger.
Wow, I think a lot of people just had a moment because one ankle sprain altering pathways in order to be able to turn on muscles as large as the glutes is, I think that's just like, how many of us have sprained our ankle and how many of us have done corrective work in order, you know what I mean? Like, never have I been told that. Never have I even considered that. I mean, it's a sprain, it gets better. You ice, you heat, and then when you can walk again, you start squatting again, right?
Yep.
That's wild.
Yes.
So,
Most
okay,
people don't know that. They don't
no.
understand how much like a simple sprain causes, because I mean your feet are your base. So your feet are the literally the most important part of your body, of your being. So even if you have an issue with your big toe, that can cause like basically a domino effect all the way up your body. So it can lead to ankle, to knee, to hip, to lower back, to shoulder, to neck. Like it works itself all the way up. And so many times clients will come to me and they'll be like, "Well, my shoulder hurts." And I'm like, "Okay, did you do anything to injure it?" "Well, no." "Okay." So then I'll do an assessment and I'll realize that their hips are all messed up and that's what's causing the shoulder pain. It's crazy. It's really really interesting. It really is, because it's like a puzzle. You're picking apart and you're like, "Okay, but that's not the actual problem. What's causing the problem is this." And it's really interesting. Actually, I had a client, she was an athlete. She was only 15 and she had an issue where her knee kept dislocating and all this stuff. And doctors couldn't figure out why. I watched her do back squats once and I told her, I was like, "You need to go to your doctor and have them look at your hip." It was actually her hip causing the knee problems. And the doctor was like, "I don't know who you're seeing, but they know their stuff." Like, it's like, so.
I think, as an athlete and a coach, I think one of the biggest things that helped me to better craft my knowledge was just simply that where the pain is coming from is likely not where the pains originated.
Mhm,
So, and I think that the more people, can really get down with that, the more we can stop sort of wasting time on the area that is hurting and ignoring a really, really important key component to the root cause of why that problem just keeps reoccurring. I mean, how many of us, who have had fitness in our lives have those reoccurring injuries?
mhm,
We treat what hurts, it feels a little better, and then a couple months later it starts hurting again.
mhm. Yep,
It's
it's very common.
so, like so many of us, I have often come to corrective exercise only when I've sustained an injury. So it's kind of like there was 5 shots and then a beer, and I decided the beer was what totally did me in. I want to talk to our listeners about potentially working in corrective exercise in a more preventative way rather than a reactionary way, because I think so many of us as athletes only address corrective work when we actually are in pain, which is too late.
It is. And you have a lot longer for those muscles to turn on, because by then, like I said, those muscles turn off. So by then, like, the neural drive is really prohibited. You have a lot of muscle imbalances because, like I said, your body will get you through the movement. It'll get you through the movement in the least resistive way. And so then you start having all these other muscles that are firing too often, and you have to get those to calm down. And sometimes that can be really difficult, and very lengthy. It just depends on what muscles they are. But it's so important. And this is what I do with my clients. We do the assessments, we kind of figure out what's going on. And most of the time they come to me and they don't have any pain or injuries or anything like that. But I notice some movement issues. Most of the time it's mothers who carry their kid on one side. So that's caused a hip shift or something like that. But what I do, and this is how I set up my workouts. So we do foam rolling. We to try to get the muscles that are turning on too often to calm down a little bit. Then we stretch those muscles. So then we get some length back into them. Then after we get that release point, and you can think of like a joint, you have two sides of muscles. So the tight side, it's pulling, right? And it's lengthening this part, and this part's not turning on. And so we want to get this side to lengthen a little bit, get some equal sides there. And then we want to strengthen this side so it turns back on. So that way you have a nice strong joint. And so then after we lengthen, we go into a strengthening regimen, which is very, very to the point. It's usually about 2 to 3 exercises, and it counts as your warm up. So you're really not losing any time. So you could do this for all of your workouts and just kind of keep up on that maintenance. Hopefully you'll get to the point where, you just have to do it a couple times a week. But at the very beginning, I have them do it pretty often because I'm like, we got some damage control, right? We got to get you back. And so we'll get those strengthening exercises. So that way your joints hopefully in a much better position. Excuse me. So then we move into the workout of the day. So those exercises are literally just a warm up. It's getting your body primed and ready for your workout of the day.
I'm really glad that you kind of laid that out in that formatting, because I know that a lot of people hear that they need to be doing corrective work and they go, okay, so I got to warm up. I got to cool down. I got to meal prep. I got to work out at least 4 times a week. I need to work a full-time job. I got these kids.
Mhm.
Like, what in the hell? How am I supposed to find time for corrective exercise in addition to all of these other things that I seemingly never have enough time for? So I'm really, really glad that you just gave the option of the way to actually work it into your session so that it's not an additional session, because I think that's really what holds so many people back. They know they need it. They know they should be doing it, but like, when?
Mhm. So one thing I do as well, and I'll give you some backstory about myself as well. So I'm a single mother, I run a business, and I have 2 kids. So I completely understand how valuable your time is. And I'll preface by saying I think I work out 3 times a week, but I make it super optimal. It's like focused. It's an hour. I get it done, and I'm in and out. So I love helping other women find ways to work it into their already busy schedule. So one thing I do, so if someone has a balance issue, right, and this can go into like sprained ankles or anything, your balance gets a little wonky. I'd be like, okay, so when you are cooking dinner at night, I want you to balance on one leg. I want you to focus on these cues. I want you to balance. Once your leg gets tired, switch sides. And just do that while you're cooking dinner. You're in one place, like just work it in. Or if they need to open up their chest because they sit at a desk and their shoulders are rounding forward, I'm like, okay, every time you go to the bathroom, once you're done, just hold a doorway stretch for a good 10 seconds. Just add it in. 10 seconds. I think you can do it. So it's just adding in little pieces throughout your day. Even if it's not much, it's making you think about it, and you're connecting it, and you're still getting that mind muscle connection, and it will help in the long run.
Hey guys, announcement of something that I really think you're going to be excited about. We have a brand new community challenge coming to our Facebook group in the month of March. We are walking for a cause. This challenge is going to keep you fit and motivated for the entire month of March. And it's also going to have some incredible benefits for a charity that CVG will be donating to based on our achievements as a group. So get in the community for more details. We are moving in March for a great cause, and you don't want to miss it. Those are such good ideas. And, I do want to talk a little bit about the favorite side, because you mentioned the moms that come in with a hip shift, because there's only the one side. For
There
some reason, the
is.
other side seems so strange. I can't hold him right on that side. So, okay, we have natural imbalances that come from having a favorite.
Mhm.
And first of all, is this normal? Is this hurting us? And should we be fighting the urge to use our more dominant side for things that we are repetitively doing?
So I don't like the word normal because it's not normal, right? Your body should not be moving in a not ideal way. It's common, I will say. It's extremely common. I would say probably about 85% of the moms that I have come in have some sort of hip shift because they've had kids and
Damn
they carry them.
it.
Yeah, I know. I'm speaking from experience.
I know.
So I,
85% is 85%. I mean,
it's
one
a
more
lot.
thing lost, just
Hmm.
damn
Yeah,
it.
I know. Have kids, they say. It'll be fun, they say. So it is very common. Is it hurting us? If you don't plan on getting super active and lifting a lot of weights, you could probably get through your life and not notice a ton of issues. Um, would it be ideal? No. But you're not technically going to get a crazy injury from having a hip shift unless you're trying to squat a bunch of weight or deadlift a bunch of weight. It's not really until you put your body under a lot of stress that you're going to get a real injury, but you could end up with some aches and pains that don't make sense, like just uncomfortable things. So yeah, that's kind of it depends on your lifestyle, I should say. And then trying to use your other side, that's hard. So like if you're right-handed, you always want to use your right hand, correct? So I would say that if you notice that you have a weaker side, maybe in the gym, add a few extra reps on that weaker side. I always tell my clients to start on their weaker side so that way they have more muscle energy to focus on it and really focus on their form on that side. And then mimic the weight and the reps on your stronger side. So that way you're kind of getting your weaker side to catch up a little bit. Um, I can't really tell people to like use their non-dominant side more often throughout their life because it's just not really realistic. But I mean, if you notice yourself, one thing that I really tell my clients to pay attention to is if you notice a lot of women stand with a hip shift, so they lean into one side. So one thing I really tell them to do if they already have a hip shift going on, I'm like, stand planted, stand up straight, posture is everything, hips over knees, knees over ankles. Like just trying to be more aware of where your body's at throughout the day is going to really help you.
Absolutely. I just I'm a chronic leg crosser. And like I don't just do the one, like I come around again for like the ultimate
Oh,
pretzel. Yeah,
okay.
I got to do the whole, it's got to be like that's the way I like it.
Yeah.
And over the past few years, I've really made an effort like nope, we're going to sit like a man.
Yeah.
Because the amount of pain that I was experiencing in the knee, which is weird cuz it's, I'm But you're so right, because those repetitive things, and sort of twisting in that way all the time, it was making me sleep like that. It was the whole ass thing. So that's crazy. I'm glad you brought that up. Um, okay, so if we suspect an area of our body might require some corrective work, now, obviously, the ideal is to go in and get an assessment from you, from a professional who can watch you move. But what are some symptoms, maybe before we actually get into like super duper pain mode? What are some symptoms that might lead us to say, "Ooh, I might need to work some corrective stuff here on this muscle group"?
So videoing yourself during workouts is extremely helpful because you're like, why am I moving like that? Like
That's
that
not how I
doesn't
was
make
moving in my
sense.
head.
Yeah. Like there's so many things that you don't see, especially even if you have a mirror in front of you, there's so much that you're missing when you're just watching yourself work out. So taking videos from different angles, from the side, from behind you, and getting those cues. As far as like feeling it in your body, you could feel that your muscles are just really tight and they're not loosening up for some reason. You could have some achiness in the joint that's near it. Um, you could notice your posture. So, like very common desk jobs, like I mentioned earlier, shoulders are rounded forward, head is pushed forward. It's called upper cross syndrome. You'll start noticing your posture is just like not ideal anymore, and you're like, what's going on? So, you can notice just how you're standing. I mean, take some videos, walk around, do some exercises. Like, you miss so much. Like when we're looking in a mirror, we're usually just standing in front and that's all we see. But we don't really see our bodies in movement very often, especially not from other angles. So, actually, a really easy one to assess your lower body, especially, is doing a suitcase carry. Video yourself doing a suitcase carry, and you're going to see so many issues in the lower body, and you're going to be like, why am I moving like that? That's weird. My hips are doing something funny. It just doesn't make sense. So that's a really good way to just kind of be more aware of what your body is doing.
Yeah, videoing yourself, it's it's such a double-edged sword. Like I, always suggest it for athletes, but for myself, I'm like, maybe I don't want to see that today. But no, you're right. It is an invaluable tool. Watching yourself back squat from behind and watching one hip just completely drive all the weight up, and you're just like, "Lefty, what you doing, girl?"
Like, where were
Like
you? That's it.
out to lunch. Oh my God. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about tools, because there are a lot of options in the corrective exercise world for tools. Um, in your opinion, what are some must-haves as far as, I mean, should we be foam rolling? Should we be using bands? Like, is it whips and chains? What's happening? What do we need?
Whips and chains are always a great
I
option.
mean,
I mean, that'll whip you right into shape. No. But foam rollers are great. They're cheap. I always suggest like cheap, simple options for my clients because I mean they're already paying me. I'm not going to make them go buy a bunch of equipment. So the must-haves. I mean, you can get away with no foam roller. You can because you can do some stretches, things like that. So if that's not something that's feasible, that's fine. It's not the most important thing, in my opinion.
do we
Um,
need the ones with all the texture, or just the flat? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Everybody's trying to tell you, oh, you need these spiky ones.
No. So I've actually read some studies about that, and there's actually no increased help from the knobby things other than just putting you into more pain. There's no actual extra benefit from them. If you like to put yourself in pain, I mean, you go for it, girl. But
We talked about the whips and chains. I
we
mean, if
did.
you're that
I
girl,
mean,
then
really, just depends on your preference when it comes down to. But no, the flat ones are perfectly fine. I just would not recommend the soft ones, the squishy ones. They don't do anything. They don't have the same effect. Think of it as a deep tissue massage. It should be uncomfortably comfortable. Other than that, I would say resistance bands. They are cheap, they are universal, and you can do so many things with them. And they really help strengthen your joints just because they put so much strain on the stability of the joint. So resistance bands are probably my number one go to.
Um, on the foam rolling, I often, just from being years in the gym and around other athletes, um, I think that not a lot of people know how to foam roll. And I think that it is one of those things where you kind of think you can just get on there and put yourself in a little bit of pain, and it's like, yeah, this is working. But is there a right and wrong way to foam roll? And are most of us doing it wrong?
I won't say wrong, less optimal. I'll say that. Because there's not really a wrong way. I mean, you could, because, okay. So foam rolling, it basically creates heat in your muscles. It is a short-term thing that happens. It does not have any long-term effects really unless you do other work with it. So it's very short-term, but it mainly just warms up the muscle for the work that you're going to do later. So technically, you could jump on a foam roller and focus on the areas that you're working and just kind of warm up the muscle. It'll just be an extra layer. And if you're not doing it optimally for like a corrective reason, it's just kind of like a feel good moment where you're like warming up your muscles. Not super necessary, but a lot of people enjoy it. Well, oh, enjoy.
Everybody's
they
that one.
they do it. But the most optimal way to foam roll is you always want to work towards your midline. So if you're foam rolling your calves, you start right above your heel and work up towards your knee, but stopping before the back of your knee. So working towards your midline is always, it just helps with circulation. That's all I could really find about it. But I'm like, if there's a benefit, might as well, you know? And then the best way to do it is you'll notice that you might have more tender spots in those muscles. You actually want to hold on those tender spots for a minimum of 30 seconds. It takes that long for the muscle to get that release of it. I won't go into the science of it. But it takes about 30 seconds for that muscle, that tender spot to release. I also always tell people only hit that spot once. Like there's no added benefit of hitting it twice. You're just going to make your muscle really sore and it's not really going to make a difference. But hit each tender spot for a minimum of 30 seconds. As you do it more often, you'll kind of notice what your body needs. So it's really weird. My body usually takes about 33 seconds. I don't know why. It just wanted to
Right
be
down to a
extra.
science.
Yeah, it
So
wanted to be
extra.
extra. Yeah, 3 seconds. My goodness. And you'll notice that maybe some spots that are more tender might take a little bit longer. Um, but just kind of like listening to you'll feel the release actually. And once I taught my clients how to do that, they're like, whoa, it kind of feels like a rush. It's really cool. It's kind of tingly, kind of a rush. It's You have to be really in tune with your body to notice it, but once you start paying attention, you'll be like, oh wow, yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, okay. So you want to hit all those tender spots, and just work your way up. So if you're working your calves, if you hit one spot, do that 30 seconds, move up to the next one. If you don't have any tender spots, foam rolling back and forth on that muscle for about 90 seconds is still going to help your body warm up.
I'm really glad. I think you hit one of the most common, well, probably two of the most common, like quote unquote, mistakes that people make on foam rolling. One being just going so fast that you're not, because 30 seconds is a long time.
It is.
Like, count out 30 seconds. I don't think I've ever rolled a single spot, even if I felt something, for 30 whole seconds, and got that big release. So, that's a while. So we can't really just be like rolling back and forth like a crazy person and thinking we're getting those release points.
Yeah, that's correct.
And the other one is, I'm definitely guilty of this, is rolling it. Like if I find a spot, I'm just like, well, I'm going to hammer this for the next 20 minutes. Like if I, you know, like a crunchy spot or a bump,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm going to go over this 90 times. So make sure it's really flat. And like you said, like one time, girl, one time's enough.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, you'll just make your body very sore and it's unnecessary. Why would you want to put yourself into pain? See, this is whips and chains, Rachel.
Oh my God, we're just back here again. Why is this an S&M podcast for me? I don't know. Whenever you get into corrective work, it's always that like good, bad pain, you know,
Yes, yeah.
which
And
is
yeah, and I always tell my clients, I'm like, if it's a pain that you cannot stand, skip it, please. Please don't torture yourself listening to that.
no,
But
that's such a good point because I think so many people think that corrective work should be, and if it isn't really painful, that they're not doing it right. And I think that, you know, everything that you're highlighting here is just like giving us those vibes of like, whoa, this isn't like a torture chamber. We're working correctively, but it doesn't need to be, you know, a 10 on the pain scale.
nope, absolutely not. And I even tell my clients, I'm like, if it gets above a 6 or a 7, that's too much. Maybe go see a massage therapist who can work on it a little bit better. And I'm like, but yeah, this is not a place where you need to beat your body up by any means. So,
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm giving you a magic wand, and the power is that you can ensure that every single listener is going to do at least one of your top 3 corrective exercises every day. What are you prescribing?
okay. So I actually made a video of it for you guys and we posted it. It was the squat hold abductions. And I love this one because I'm guessing most of the listeners are women. They're probably mothers and a lot of injuries. I say that lightly. I won't say like specifically like, you know, tears or anything. People always think the most horrible thing when I say injuries. Um, happen with pregnancy and delivery. And a lot of times it leads to a lot of hip issues, unfortunately. And so I would say the squat hold abduction one would be my favorite because it not only puts you in a mobility stance, so you're focusing on opening your hips, but you're also focusing on stabilizing them and turning your glutes on, which your glutes will kind of turn off when you're pregnant because of the hip shift. Like you tilt forward because of your baby, you know, you get that lower back arch. Your glutes kind of tend to get turned off for a little bit because they're like, we don't need to do this. We're good. So that would probably be my favorite would because that just kind of bulletproofs your hips.
If you are watching on Spotify or YouTube, we're going to put a demo of that up for you so that you can see how to do that movement. And would you say what do you like? You 3 times a week? What are we doing this?
Yeah, 3 times a week is a great starting point, or at the minimum before you're doing any leg exercises. So use that as your warm up, like I mentioned. And it's going to burn. It's going to burn real good. Okay. You're going to feel it in your glutes. If you don't feel it there, we need to reassess. Okay. But the important part is being in that active squat hold. So you're not just dropping to the bottom all willy nilly, right? You're in an active squat hold. You want to push your knee out and really hold it. Really squeeze the glute of the side of the knee that's pushing out. And so you can really feel it. And please, by all means, take a rest between legs. It burns. It burns. You're doing it. You're doing it right if it burns.
Gotta interrupt the pod to tell you about, do you love St. Patrick's Day? What is green beer when you could have green leggings? We have all your shenanigans waiting at constantlyvariedgear.com. We've got the cutest Celtic knots, we've got shamrock skulls, and a little surprise for you. Get lucky for this holiday season and show your Irish pride with everything Irish at constantlyvariedgear.com. I had one more that I was thinking of specifically because you brought up that corrective exercise and you do so much work with women, we know that that was really interesting that you said that the glutes turn off, because the most difficult thing for me postpartum was building back like my hinge strength, and my quads were so dominant after,
Yeah.
like they were already, but then like after I gave birth, it was just it was absurd how dominant they were, and how just like my glutes weren't turning on at all. Do you have any work you like to see women at any stage postpartum kind of putting in their everyday routine because of what may have become imbalance during their pregnancy?
Yes. So one is trying to get that front side of your hips loosened up. So like a kneeling hip flexor stretch, something like that to get your hips back into alignment. So we'll say like this is your glutes, this is the front of your hip. When you're pregnant, it gets tilted like this because of the big belly. Everything gets tight in the front. So your hip flexors, your quads, everything like that gets very tight. Your glutes kind of turn off because they get lengthened. And so trying to focus on getting your hips back into center by getting that front part to release. So your quads, your hip flexors, all of that stuff, trying to get that to calm down a little bit so you can get back into the more optimal state of position would be a really good one. And then obviously, like, you know, if at any point during pregnancy, after pregnancy, focusing on Kegels is ideal. So people don't understand how much the pelvic floor is actually related to your hips and everything. I'm actually speaking from experience. I'll go into a little side note about my delivery with my son. It actually was not ideal. It became emergency, and I had to push without contractions, and I ended up suffering from a right hip injury. So basically, my right hip became extremely unstable, and it led to an adductor tear when I started working out because I didn't know about it. No one checked me, right? That's a whole other topic. So, tore my adductor, and I just recently got that healed. And my son is over 2 years old. And the key factor, and this is why I was going into it, they couldn't figure out why I was still having SI joint pain because, like, they were like, oh, well, your adductor's torn. Once that's healed, your SI joint should start feeling better. And I'm like, cool. Well, it didn't. Turns out that my SI joint pain was actually pelvic floor related because during my delivery, it caused a lot of damage on the right side of my hip. And so it wasn't until I integrated pelvic floor therapy, specifically like hands-on pelvic floor therapy, that my SI joint stopped hurting.
That's
Crazy.
wild. I would say unbelievable, but I have heard and have also personally experienced so much to the contrary that like after, you know, giving birth to my son, I had an immense amount of unexplained back pain, which I thought was weak glutes, which I thought was damage to the fascia in, you know, my midline. I equated it to about a million things. No one could tell me what was going on. And it was all pelvic floor related, which is like but it was I said, no, but my back's hurting. And
Yep.
they're like, no, sis, that's your pelvic
No.
floor.
Yeah, it's all connected. So, like, there's a part of your pelvic floor that literally ties into the SI joint. Not to mention the obturator nerve. It wraps around that right hip and it connects like right into your pubic bone and stuff. So it's literally like all coiled up in there. And that nerve can get super irritated during pregnancy and delivery. And that alone can cause what you think is SI joint pain. And it's crazy. She said my obturator nerve on the right side was hard as a rock. I was like, cool. Thanks. Like, thank you. I'm so strong. No.
Have kids, they say. And, you know, too, I just want to highlight too that whether you're recently postpartum or you are, you know, you have big kids, these issues, if they're not addressed, will become lingering issues. I mean, my son's 7 and I still do pelvic floor work
Mhm.
because I feel it in my back if I don't. And I, you know, I know you can attest to this, but tell the moms of the older kids too. Tell them
Yes.
you're not exempt.
No, you're not. And so like my daughter is 7 as well. And so it is a lingering issue. And I had back surgery after I had my daughter. This is why I'm not having any more kids. I'm just going to point that out. Uh, love my
I
kids, but I'm done.
same.
So I had back surgery after I had my daughter and stuff. So like I've anytime I get a little bit of back pain, I'm like, okay, stop it. Okay, we gotta be careful. It's ridiculous. But no, you are not exempt whatsoever. So my daughter is 7. And when I went to the pelvic floor therapist, she was pointing out things that were happening. She was like, oh, your daughter's 7? And I'm like, yeah. She was like, did you have a lot of like, shooting pain and a lot of SI joint, all of that stuff. And I was like, yes. And she was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, how do you know this? That's creepy. So she was pointing out stuff. She even pointed out issues from I got my appendix taken out when I was younger. Because they cut into your abdominal wall and everything like that. So she was pointing out all these issues that have been accruing over since I was like 14. And so, no, like you're not exempt. Those problems don't just go away, unfortunately. I wish they did. And even if you are postpartum and you're like, I feel great, I don't have any issues. That's great. That's amazing. Just listen to your body. We're not saying that you're broken just because you had kids. You may
I
be one of
mean,
the lucky ones.
I mean, you're a little broken. Let's be honest. We're all
A
a
little
little
bit.
broken,
Let's be real.
but yeah, no, I think you're so right. It just goes back to what you said about the spraining your ankle one time and having that have residual effects. I mean, if we think we're going to go through something as traumatic on the body as pregnancy and birth, and we're just going to get out of that unscathed without any. I mean, as our healthcare system is, it is kind of an expected thing that you would get out of that unscathed and go on home and don't make sure you take good care of that baby. And
Yep.
that's about
No,
all
you're
the
fine.
instruction.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I really like the idea that there are things from God knows how long and along that you may still be moving in ways that are reflective of those, and that it's never too late. It's like we can work on that today. We can work on that
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. And if you find your movement and your exercise is not optimal, or you find yourself constantly having these nagging, reoccurring injuries, let's work on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Let's
and
work
it
on
and it really is never too late. So even if your kid is 25 and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I've had back pain this whole time." That's okay. It's all workable. It's all fixable. It's okay. It's doesn't matter how long you've had the issue. You can still work on it. You can still make it better. So there's never a time limit. You don't need to do it in a certain amount of time for it to work or not. So don't let that discourage you.
That's really, really good news, and I think really uplifting to anyone who is kind of feeling like they have the bad knee, the bad
Yeah.
shoulder, right? Like it's just bad. It's gone bad. It's expired. It's not yeah, so like I don't use that one anymore. It's like no, no, you do use
We need
that
to
one
use it.
still.
We need to use it just in a better way. Let's.
So, Alyssa, where can our listeners hear more from you? Where can they get in touch with you? Should we all be getting an assessment?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All of you. Now, would I be able to assess all of you? That might take a while. But even if you want to talk to someone, I also know a ton of other people who are very knowledgeable on the. I don't really know a ton of other people that do everything like I do. But I know a lot of people who know a lot of things as well, so I can always direct people. But you can find me. I am on Instagram. It's enchantedwellness.fit. That is my Instagram page, and you guys will probably see me on CVG a lot as well. And then I also have a Facebook page, which is just my name, Enchanted Wellness, or Alyssa Borges. You can look me up that way. And that has all of my contact info as well. So my email, my phone number, so you can send me a DM, however. So I'm pretty active in making sure that I get back to everyone and reply. So I also am going to be working on building like ebooks and things like that. So that way I can reach more people. I do offer virtual training and everything like that. So
Alyssa is a wealth of knowledge, you guys. Reach out to her, follow her on her pages. She has just some amazing content that is just going to really help you move better every single day. And Alyssa, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with our listeners. And it's been a pleasure.
yes, thank you so much, Rachel. I'm really thankful to be here.